Hey guys, it is Friday, November 29th. Bitcoin is at 98,400, looking to make another pass at 100K. And I've got my trusted sidekick, Alaska. Good girl. And today we're going to be talking about the convergence of unit of value. And I think this is going to be a great episode. So I was thinking about an old tweet of or actually an old video of Michael Saylor when he sort of discovered Bitcoin about 4 years ago. And he talked about this crazy network effects of Bitcoin. And that, as Bitcoin gets more adopted through network effects, more people build on top of Bitcoin, like, Apple and Google eventually will start building wallets on top of Bitcoin. And then it just becomes this ginormous network that nobody can stop. And I think this is just a great way to start looking at Bitcoin. But before we dive in, I want you to hit the subscribe button on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, can you go to YouTube and hit subscribe button? I think it'll be great. It really helps me out a lot. Okay, so let's go to this tweet that I posted just today, and I think you guys are going to find this interesting. So I basically looked at Bitcoin as a unit of account, and let's just see how that looks. Okay, so and my quote was this: that we always consolidate down to a single unit of account. It's really just a thing that we've done over history, over the last 2,000 years, and it's happening again right now. And for you to really understand Bitcoin, you got to understand this consolidation, this network effect. So let's go to ancient times. 2,000-3,000 years ago, people were using all kinds of things as money. Shells, cattle, grains, metal, yap stones in the Pacific. If you've visited Kenya, you can go to Maasai tribes, and they use cattle still today as money. In the Pacific Islands, they use shells. And metals started getting found in the Danube region in Germany for the first time. That's really the first time metals sort of got discovered a couple thousand years ago. And over time, some of these inferior forms of money were discarded. And what ended up working was gold and silver. Gold was great for larger amounts of money, and silver was great for sort of everyday money. And everything else just faded away. Now, when we got into the 1800s, the world dropped silver and really went all in on gold. Now, I think it's important to, and again, why? Why did they do this? Well, simplicity. Gold, one standard is better than two. Trust, you can completely trust gold. You can test whether it's accurate or not, real gold or not. And network effects. If I can generally assume that everybody's going to trust gold everywhere I went. And in the 19th century, started doing all this business between Europe and America. And, we had to have some way of keeping track. And that way was gold. Now, it's important to realize the dollar, when it was first created right after the revolution, really was just a coinage thing. And a dollar was equivalent to 400 grains of silver, right? So it got really the dollar was silver at that point in the 1776, and therefore you saw the silver dollar, right? And there were no federal banknotes that didn't exist until really after the Civil War. So people just had dollars. A dollar was a certain amount of silver, and banks could sort of print their own notes saying, "I'm going to give you $500 to the bearer of this note." And there was no U.S. dollar that was a centrally traded paper note. That changed after the Civil War, and we started in this sort of cycle of government spending and overspending and everything else. And we sort of dropped silver at this point, and gold became the global yardstick of value. And the relevant metric became $1 equals 1 ounce of gold is equal to $25, right? And that was the case for the second half of the 19th century. Then we really started seeing paper money take over, right? And we saw the first paper money in the U.S. is sort of after the Civil War. There were some earlier attempts in France in the 1780s, and they didn't end very well. I happen to have an actual bill from an assignat from 1780s, 1790s in France, worthless now. But basically, we had this paper money that sort of took over really in the 20th century, right? So, and then, of course, we had the Federal Reserve that was created. And so when we had this paper money, there was still all these currencies, the Deutschmark, it's called the Reichsmark at that point, but the British pound, we had Japanese yen, all these things. And eventually, it took 100 years, but one ended up dominating, which was the US dollar. Why? Liquidity, trust, network effects. Everybody wanted to have one unit of account for this trade. Sound familiar? So anyway, let's go back now to today. We're moving to digital currencies, and we're moving to cryptocurrencies. Now, Bitcoin was the first one. Now there's thousands of contenders, but Bitcoin is the one that is consolidating. And Ethereum is only worth a third of what Bitcoin is worth today. It's going down. Solana is a tenth of what Bitcoin is worth. So these are not really just unit of account. Nobody's sitting there going, I'm going to settle my trade standards in Solana. That's just not happening. Centrally controlled, it has no, it's just not going to take over as a unit of account. Bitcoin is consolidating just in the same way that the US dollar was consolidating in the 20th century. Bitcoin is consolidating in the 21st century. And so the last thing I'll just say, this is not just a trend. This is the inevitable network effects taking over. This is why there's only one search engine right now, is Google. Really one auction platform, that's, eBay. We're seeing this again and again. There's network effects, and this is how we consolidate into Bitcoin. Net effect of this is the next 20 years. I fully expect everything to be denominated in Bitcoin. And I don't think we're eventually going to need the dollar. It'll be a little bit like silver and gold. We'll still have it, but gold will be the dominant one. It'll still be like the euro and the US dollar right now. Yeah, the euro exists. It is the unit of exchange in the euro block. But no international trade is settled in euros or in yen right now. These things are on their way out. So I really think that we are looking at network effects, Bitcoin becoming the dominant unit of account in the 21st century. And that's my podcast. If you like it, again, hit subscribe, really important. And we'll see you on Bitcoin First and every day. And one last thing. If you are going to be giving Bitcoin related gifts for Christmas, why don't you think about going to thebigbitcoinbook.com, picking up a copy of this amazing book. It's a really high-end art book on Bitcoin that Ben Sigmund and I wrote. It's one of the top 1,000 selling books in the world right now. We sold $360,000 worth of this book. It's a great book. it will help. It will help orange pill your friends and family. So it would make a great Christmas gift. Anyways, that's it, guys. I will see you online.